You can do a couple of things really, and a majority of them are going to be located in your materials panel here, which you can also access by hitting F5. And well, F5 to get to your shading, and then you click on material button. And you start it off by linking the material you're going to make to your object. Make sure you have your text selected, and hit Add New. Alright, so you're now swamped with a good bit of buttons, and we're not going to cover them all. It's going to take a while. So the first thing you can do, the easiest way to change the color, is just to go down to the color button here. And you can click, and you got your shade here. You can go between colors. You can choose the hexadecimal value of your color, or you can slide the color around. So I like a nice shade of blue like that, and it's going to update in your GUI, which stands for Graphic User Interface. And the different modes of how you can view your meshes and everything are located right next to your object in everything mode. So everything usually starts out in solid, and you're not really going to tell a difference between shaded and textured. Well, I guess you will. Anyways, when you have it in textured mode, lighting and everything shows you how they're going to be aimed at and appear in your mode. So numpad 0 there, get in my camera, I hit F, and I've got some nice blue text. Yay! Close that window, and you can also click the outside box of your camera here, and you can get your view and rotate the camera, and G. And I always constrain the axis, and this is just me changing between give me a second here, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, rotating and grabbing. And 12 got a 92. Just made me realize that yes, the second dotted line is the boundaries. So that looks good, but we don't want them all to be the same color. So when we go back to our material button here, got to select your object, everything appears, and we want a new material. So if you go over to your editing panel, and you can actually just go to material, new, and you can have up to 16 materials per object. And so we'll just go to 2 here, go back to the shading, and you'll see here that you've got your second material selected here, and it's also material 0.01. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you now that you're going to want to get in the habit of naming your materials, because when you get a large scene set up, it's really hard to differentiate between them. So we'll just call this red ramp, and there's another material you can apply. And if you go to color band in your ramps tab here, and what a ramp is, it's very similar to a gradient, but you can choose your 2 colors that it's going to fade to. So here's our, oddly enough, their default color is cyan, pretty non-standard. And the color that it's going to drop to will make dark red. How does that look? We don't know yet, because we hadn't applied the texture to any part of the text, because we put it all on every piece. Now if we go back to tab, and what you want to do is select everything that you want to apply this texture to, and just select vertex mode, and I hit B for box, click and drag, and I have all those selected. And I go back to my editing button here, and you can now assign the material to your selected vertices. red. Nice. Now notice how I didn't select every single one, and that's because when you have your Euclidean background geometry, you can't select through a mesh. You can also hit Z, and it gives you the wireframe. And you can see through everything. It's a bit more transparent than you'll get in Euclidean. And then I go back and I sign it. Sign again, just for fun. Hit Tab, and it's still in wireframe mode. Hit Z again, and we now have multi-colors. And see how it's dropping to the red color for the shadows. That's how the ramp works. Let's go back here. We can just now note that if you apply this texture, this material to anything else, if you change here, actually I'll just show you an example. I'll add a new plane and just drop it down beside. Give it a new material, and in this drop down menu you can choose from the ones you've already made. And if we choose red ramp, the plane has red ramp, which is more green oriented. But anyways, so if we go back here, well, to display the point, we have the new material on the plane, and if we change it here and to a nice yellow, that was specularity. I'll get to that in another time, but so get that yellow on there, and it's going to change the material that's already been applied to here. And if you want to have the same base but apply them separately, what you need to do is go to give me a second here, this 2 here, and you make it a single user, and then you just go red ramp plane, and now you're able to change the color independently. And so I don't pass anything over. In addition to materials, there's these things called textures. They're directly to the right of the material button, texture. You add new, and let's keep this on the plane actually. Add a new texture. And there's a whole bunch of things you can play around with, and that's what I really suggest you do, is just play around to get these correct. But in order to do that, you do need to know one thing that I find slightly counterintuitive. You can change the size of the texture. This is going to appear on your plane, and in order to get it to show up, you go back to your material panel here, and you have to click text face, which will apply the texture to the object. And ta-da! I don't know if you can tell with the resolution, but there is the slight bumpy, cloudy texture to that. And I think I have a little time, so I'll just get into this really quick. If you go to Map 2, you can change how the texture actually affects the object. Now if you hit Tab, we're going to need more vertices so you can see exactly what this does. And if you hit W, subdivide, it divides each point, or each edge, into with an additional vertex, and then, as you can tell, just dissects it. And we do that, let's just say, a couple more times there. And in our Map 2, we're going to change the let's do NOR. When you have this selected, it will show it's depressed, and then you can change the NOR value here, and that just changes how the texture affects the actual map. Texture affects the actual vertices. And it looks like it's slightly raised, and you can go even further by doing a displacement. Turn the displacement up, and you start to get a really funky type messed up mesh. So fun. Alright, so next we're going to get into the animating, which is probably the most frustrating. Alright.